Hello and welcome back to the Sports Brief Podcast. Colton Hall coming at you live. A lot to talk about this week. Excited to have everybody on. Before we kind of get into our little spiel here, let's go and actually introduce some people. Obviously, first of all, we got our boy Tristin on the line. Tristin, what is up, my dude?
Not much. Ready to get after it.
Yeah, amen, brother. Thursday night, we got to get this. Also, got to give a huge shout out to my boy Dom for joining the show. Even though I spelled his name wrong all week and I feel awful. Dom, I really got to say thank you for joining the show, man. I'm so excited to have you on. He's my former college football teammate. We even went to high school a little bit together. Dom, thanks for coming on, big guy.
Yeah, thank you for having me, guys. I appreciate it, man.
Yeah, absolutely. We're ecstatic to have you on. We got through this thing. First thing, before we get into the show, I got to talk about you guys subscribing, get all the hottest Vikings and Packers takes weekly. Go in the comments section. Let us know what's going on, what we're doing right, what we're doing wrong. Man, let's just get into the show. Before we do, I actually got one more thing. I have to give a shout out to Volber Surveillance Installation, who's actually sponsoring this video. Are you looking for an extra boost in your home or security, in your business security? Excuse me. Look no further than the Volber Surveillance Installation. Volber Surveillance Installation, which is located in Columbus, South Dakota, can and will give you an added feel of safety in your home or business. Ethan Volber, certified in safety assessment, can and will help you choose from a wide variety of cameras and systems that will work best for you while keeping you on budget. Get your free safety assessment ranging from lighting, locks, and camera placement and quote on your home or business for free today. Give them in Volber Surveillance Installation a call at 842-5807. One more time, that is 842-5807. Check them out on Facebook. That's Volber Surveillance Installation, the official sponsors of this video. So we got a lot to talk about. Let's roll right into this show. And it's going to start, actually, I always start out with the Packers just because I'm a Vikings fan, and I really don't like to usually see what happens with the Vikings because it's usually, it hurts. It usually is pretty painful to watch. So we'll start with Tristin, and we'll go right to Dom. Can you guys kind of give me your takes on what happened against the Giants? I mean, you guys, they should have won that game, like even though they did. I mean, is that impressive to you guys, or is it just kind of one of those things where, hey, man, they won?
I'll go first, I guess. I wasn't too thoroughly impressed with Green Bay's performance. It's nice that they won. They definitely needed a win, but their offense didn't really seem to have much rhythm the whole game. Their scoring drives or the plays that they did score touchdowns on just seemed kind of random and sporadic almost. The offense, I would say the whole game, the offense didn't really have much of a rhythm. They weren't getting first down after first down and then punting. They were just going 3 and out, 3 and out, 3 and out, punt, random touchdown, 3 and out, touchdown. So it was kind of strange, but we'll take a win when we can get it. I was pretty happy with the defense's performance, getting turnovers, what they're best at. They haven't been as dominant as they were at the beginning of the season. That's no secret, but they've still been very good with taking the ball away, which helped out a lot because if they didn't take the ball away, that game would have been a lot closer than it was for sure.
Mm-hmm. Dom, what about you, big fella?
Yeah, no, I agree with Tristin on basically just about everything you said, man. I think it was a good win, a much-needed win, but it still didn't look like a complete football game to me. We've had times where our offense has played really well, but then usually our defense will struggle, or vice versa. Our defense will be playing really well, and our offense will struggle with certain things. We're a young team, and we're still trying to get that chemistry down and things like that. But overall, I would say it was a much-needed win, especially after that loss to the 49ers. So, I was proud of the way they played.
Mm-hmm. I just think that, everybody's going to kind of probably put a little bit of disrespect on it because of the fact that, again, it was the Giants, and they should have won that game. I got to give a little shout-out to my man Aaron Rodgers, though, for 2 reasons. Number 1, fantasy made me look great for once. I'm like 7-9 in my league, man. It's awful. I can't get anything right, so it's good to know I got a quarterback right. So I got to give a shout-out to him for that. And then number 2, Tristin, I believe if last week, maybe you remember this, maybe you don't, I said that this would be the game that the Packers would start to get it rolling. I mean, they're going to come out and start slinging it out. I think the offense is going to start clicking. Like you said, it wasn't the prettiest game, but Aaron Rodgers came out, through 4 touchdowns, took care of business. I gotta be happy about that. So again, but it may not be, they didn't exactly blow up, but it's a step in the right direction. And trust me, as a Vikings fan, sometimes you got to be able to take those tiny things because those can really start to help your team moving forward. Let's see here. Yeah, Packers took care of business. Anything else you guys noticed from the game, or was it just, man, whatever?
It's kind of whatever. We'll see what they can do this week again against the Redskins, another subpar team that they should be able to beat pretty handily. I think the Redskins' defense is okay, but it's not good enough to stop Aaron Rodgers if he's playing well. But yeah, they just need to play as good as or better than how they played against the Giants, especially going into the Bears game the week after that. It's a good defense. And then into the Monday night game against Minnesota. That'll be a huge game. That'll likely decide who wins the NFC North and our seeding in the playoffs. So they need to keep it up.
Yeah. Absolutely. Let me just add one thing. I think our play calling has been huge this season. You know, sometimes when Matt LaFleur has unleashed the offense and let them kind of throw the deep ball and things like that, we've had success. But sometimes when, you know, we're calling these short runs on third and second down, you know, like it's really not doing much for our offense. So I would like to see them just kind of open up the playbook a little bit and just let Aaron Rodgers do his thing.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. You know, that's the one thing is I've had Aaron Rodgers all season long on fantasy, and plus I've just watched him as a Vikings fan because he's in the division. And I just remember thinking, man, like I'm really actually scared for when the Packers actually get rolling and actually start to get things going, because as a Vikings fan watching this defense fall apart, which we'll get into in a second, I'm just sitting here, I'm thinking like this could be really dangerous if they really start to get something going, and this could be really something huge because I know a lot of people, you know, even right before the season, their defense was like rated an 87 above the Vikings, which at first I was like, what? You know, I was kind of freaking out. But now, I mean, their defense, the Packers defense isn't awful. I mean, they've definitely come a long way from last year. So I think the defense is also going to get hot. I forgot to tell you guys. And last week, I didn't mention this on the podcast because I don't know. I'm a blonde. I forget stuff. And anyways, I remember kind of looking at it and thinking, you know, people might have thought that I didn't know what I was talking about when it came to the Packers because, dude, have you seen the Packers, the way they lost to the 49ers? Listen, this isn't the same Packers team that was with Brett Favre, okay? This Packers team fully believes in Aaron Rodgers, and when that man says, i.e. a couple years ago, they're going to run the tables, dude, you just kind of learn that pretty quickly this is a pretty different Packers squad. I don't care who is the defensive coordinator. I don't care how their defense looks. This is Aaron Rodgers. I believe he's one of the most talented and best quarterbacks to ever play in this league. The man deserves a lot of respect. So kind of going back to that, anything really goes at the Packers, but I truly believe that they are one of the better teams in the NFL, let alone the NFC. Let's see here. Let's kind of go into this Vikings. Let's see here. I had a couple questions here, and we would kind of answer the first one. How impressive was the Vikings or the Packers win over the Giants? I mean, it was just kind of meh. Let's talk about the Packers offense and possibly the ability. Dom, we'll start with you getting hot at the right time. What does it mean for this offense to kind of take care of business against otherwise underwhelming Giant squad?
I think it's big confidence-wise. I think it does a lot for our team. The main thing we're missing, I feel like, is just everybody buying into the fact that we can be great and we can make a Super Bowl run this year. One thing I do want to point out is that we've had some tough losses this year. You know, to the Eagles, we lost by 7 in a close one. That was a battle. We lost to the Chargers, I believe, as well by 15. You know, that was a tough loss to swallow, you know. And, of course, we just got beat pretty bad a couple weeks ago against the 49ers. But I do think once our offense starts getting that confidence and that swagger to them, you will see a lot more points from that offense and a lot more domination, I would say. You know, and I don't think our defense has been great this year. I know it's kind of off topic what you said, but I just want to mention that, you know, they're getting takeaways when it matters, and I think that's huge for our team. But, yeah, that's pretty much where I stand. I think that once our offense kind of gets it rolling, that it'll be good, especially, you know, December, January. These are the important months of football, you know.
Mm-hmm. Tristin?
Yeah, I agree with Dominic there. The offense, it kind of going back to what you said about run the table, it all kind of revolves around what Rodgers says. It's kind of weird, but like when he says stuff and when he makes bold statements like that, people listen and his teammates listen. They all start playing better. I think when he starts to get a little more urgent like this, it kind of raises the level of everybody else around him. So I hope he keeps this up and keeps saying encouraging things like this, and hopefully that they start opening the playbook up more, like you said earlier, Dominic, and spreading the ball out more to the younger receivers, like we saw when Davante Adams was out. Because when Davante Adams was out, the offense looked really, really good with Rodgers throwing the ball to everybody. and
Absolutely.
they need to start using Aaron Jones more as a wide receiver. We saw that a lot when Adams was out. They used Aaron Jones a lot as a wide receiver, and he had a lot of touchdowns. But now that Adams is back, they haven't really been splitting Jones out wide anymore. So they need to get back to doing that. But yeah, as soon as it's kind of weird, the Packers, if one side of the ball is clicking, the other side isn't really clicking. But as soon as both of those sides of the ball get clicking, then they're going to be really scary for sure, and they can definitely make a deep run into the playoffs.
Mm-hmm. You guys, do you have anything to add before we kind of go into the Vikings, or is that kind of just hit it out of the ballpark? Good enough.
I think the Packers are on the verge of breaking a record for the worst punt return team of all time.
Oh my gosh!
I think so far, I can't remember what it was, but they need over the next few games, they need 50 something or 60 something return yards to not break their record. And because I think right now on the season they're at -8 punt return yards, or they're at negative something. But
it's
we
bad.
just cut. Yeah, the Packers just released the return man, that Tremont Smith, I think was his name, and they just signed another returner off of. I can't remember where he came from, but he kind of plays a bit like Darren Sproles. But yeah, hopefully he can get us 30 plus combined return yards for the rest of the season, so we don't end up in that record book.
Mm-hmm. What about you, Big Dom?
No, I think we pretty much touched on most things. Of course, me being a Packers fan, I want us to pull it together and make a run this year. It's been a long time since I've seen my team in the Super Bowl, but I'm excited to see how the rest of the season is going to turn out.
Mm-hmm. And now, unfortunately, ladies and gentlemen, we have to go and talk about my Minnesota Vikings. I'm going to kind of get this to you good. I need to fumigate a little. I need to calm down. I don't know if fumigate's the right word. I don't know. I need to breathe a little bit before I go into my little spiel about the Vikings. So I'm going to actually drop it off to my main man, my co-host, Tristin Rancourt. I'm assuming you watched the game on Monday night?
I did.
Okay. What were your thoughts about the game?
Big shout out to Mike Zimmer for helping out Green Bay.
Come on, man.
I've said this week in and week out. Mike Zimmer fails to make adjustments at halftime. I don't know what it is about him. Defense. The defense doesn't look horrible at times, but it seems like the offense, they can play really good one half of the football game. They can't play really good two halves of the football game. I don't know. It was kind of disappointing. If I'm not wrong, the Vikings were winning at halftime, right? 17 to 10.
Halftime. Yeah. They were.
Yeah, they were doing really well. But kudos to the Seahawks for their adjustments they made, and they went off in the second half, and Minnesota didn't really do anything. I'm surprised that Minnesota even scored 30 points. But I think that shows a lot about Minnesota. I think they're a really good football team. The fact that they were able to score 30 points even in that environment after getting shut down so bad the second half, I think it really speaks volumes of the team. They're not a team. I think right now, if the season ended today, Green Bay would play Minnesota in the wild card round. But Minnesota is definitely not a team.
I beat Minnesota in the wild card round.
Yeah, I probably would. Them. But I don't know. Minnesota is not really a team I want to see in the playoffs because I know what the offense is capable of, and I know what the defense is capable of. So if they play a really good game, they can be really good.
I appreciate you being kind to my team, and especially in a down week like this, kind of a depressing week. Dom, I'm probably sure you watched the game as well. Tell me what your thoughts are about this Vikings game, man.
Yeah, I did watch parts of the game. I'm not gonna lie, I didn't watch the whole thing, but what I did gather from it was that the Vikings have a lot of great players. I think they have a lot of great players, and they can put together a team, but they're just missing a few things. I don't know if it's coaching or what, but I will say this one thing about Kirk Cousins. He is missing consistency, and I've seen all season him play really well at certain times, but most of the time, he's very inconsistent with his throws. So if he can figure it out and really lead that offense, because it's a powerful offense, I think they could be a dangerous team. I don't really know too much about you guys' defense, so I won't speak on it. But I just saw you guys give up quite a few points to Seattle, so that's tough. That's a tough one.
Yeah. I'm going to kind of ask it before. I really want to, kind of wait. I want to wait to go off on my team because of all the things that I've had to endure for the last 23 years. Holy crap, I'm old. 23 years old. I've had to deal with a lot dealing with these Vikings. And I'm going to ask you guys both of this. And I know you both kind of watched the game. How much of this loss is solely on the shoulders of Kirk Cousins? That's a big question.
Not much of it, I don't think. I thought he played pretty well for the most part in that game, but it just comes down to like third down throws. You got to make them. If they would have converted more on third down, they probably would have ended up either winning or tying or being closer at the end. You never know. But yeah, he's super inconsistent. When he plays good, he plays really good, and then when he's not playing well, he either does very poor or it's kind of weird. But it's kind of nice having a quarterback that doesn't play that bad or that inconsistent. So I wouldn't know what it feels like. But
thanks, Tristin. Yeah.
Yeah. There's one thing that was kind of funny about the game, that something about kicking the ball wide left against the Seahawks. Thought that was funny. Thought I'd bring
him while he was down. Huh?
Yep.
That was I still live in that nightmare every day. And before I'm stifling my anger because I really want to save it for my rant. So, Dom, how much I know? Looking at the game, you kind of said it about the defense, though. How much of this loss do you actually put on Kirk Cousins, though?
I want to agree with Tristan on this one. I don't think he had a terrible game at all. But like you said, some of those throws he had on third down, I mean, you got to make those. A 3rd and 10, 3rd and 12. And just overthrowing receivers is really unacceptable, especially when you got receivers like Stephon Diggs. And I know Thielen's out right now, but, they have some weapons. And, as a quarterback, it's your job to make those throws. So I'd say it's a good 50-50 in my opinion. I think they need some help in different areas, but he definitely contributed to that loss, in my opinion.
Hope you guys are buckled up for this, because what I'm about to say might need to be edited out some of it. No, here's what I'm going to say. I don't think any blame really should be on Kirk Cousins. There should be. Let me take that back. I think a little bit of blame. I would say if we're going out of a 100% scale, I would say 15% is to blame on Kirk Cousins. The vast majority of this is not on Kirk Cousins. First half, yes, you got a little bit of rough kind of going around, but let's look at this Vikings team. They're not sling the ball. They're not Green Bay. They don't sling the ball 40 times a game. They're not Patrick Mahomes. They're not the Chiefs. They don't try to come in and throw the ball 50 times a game. Excuse me. The Vikings want to put the ball in Dalvin's counts, and they want to shove the ball down your throat. That is the type of offense that we've had all season long. Dalvin Cook already has 1,000 rushing yards. Now he's behind Christian McCaffrey because the man's injured, and quite frankly, I think he should be out for a couple weeks just to get healthy so that way we can have him against the Packers. Now, going back to Kirk Cousins here. You guys were right. Yes, he missed a couple of wide open throws. Do you guys know, the completion percentage over Kirk Cousins when he plays pretty well? By chance off the top of your heads? Probably not.
No, but I know he's 0-8 on Monday night.
Thanks, Tristan. Yeah, thanks, Tristan.
It's going to be 0-9
Here's the thing.
A couple weeks here.
Okay. All right, simmer down. Okay. So looking at some of this, he has it averages about 70% completion percentage. His completion percentage on Monday night, 58%. Not great. I think in that first half, it actually looked pretty good in the first half, but then they had to sling the ball out a little bit more because, Dalvin Cook went down and the Vikings had to improvise. Not a lot of this is on Kirk Cousins because he showed me something on Monday night that I really hadn't seen all night long, is when crap hits the fan and the defense is shutting down Dalvin Cook. Can you put the team on your back against a good playoff team? Not even just a playoff team. The Seahawks are a Super Bowl contending team now. They are a legitimate team, especially with Russell Wilson at quarterback. Can you put the team on your back? And can you take care of this team? And can you sling that football around to get them a victory? He showed that to me. They were down 34-17. I remember I just got done covering a Winter City Council meeting. And I remember, okay, I'm shutting this game off. I'm not dealing with this anymore because of all the heartbreak that I've had to endure. I'm just done. And I saw the Vikings scored. I'm like, it's a 2-score game. I'll watch the rest of it. Kirk Cousins showed me right then and there that barring the 4th and 3 that he missed, that kind of puts a damper on his night. Barring that, the dude played outstanding. He threw a touchdown to Kyle Rudolph, who, by the way, I think might have the best hands in the NFL. I'm just saying. We'll get into that later. But looking at this loss is not in any way in Kirk Cousins. The Vikings allowed over 200 rushing yards. Granted, Seahawks do have a really good running game. Russell Wilson's athletic and can pull the ball down when he has to. The running backs, both of them for the Seahawks, are really good. Listen, this isn't really mainly on Kirk Cousins in any way. This is on the defense. This defense that was supposed to be one of the better defenses kind of moving forward, one of the better defenses in the NFL. Where are you? I don't know what's going on. Xavier Rhodes, I'm sorry. I've been saying it all season long, but this guy does need to be benched because he's getting picked apart. If I'm a quarterback, and if I'm a quarterback and I'm looking at this, I look at Xavier Rhodes, I look at everything that's going on with his team. I don't target anybody. I throw the ball 50 times at Xavier Rhodes, and I'm not exaggerating. I throw it 51 times at Xavier Rhodes, trying to target that man because of how weak he has continued to play. And you want to talk about a steep decline? The man was regarded as one of the best corners in all of football a couple of seasons ago, and now he's a nobody. He's not even playing anywhere close to where he was a couple years ago. I don't understand it. It's pretty bad. The Vikings got shredded for over 200 yards. Chris Carson and Rashard Penny, they did their jobs. They just shredded the Vikings. The Vikings goal line defense in the red zone is usually pretty good. It's one of the best in the NFL. I believe they scored 3 or 4 touchdowns at ease. They didn't even have to try. This loss to me is on the Vikings, and I don't care what everybody says. I know they're probably going to say that, okay, at the end of the day, man, it's just a loss. Everybody's to blame. No, this defense is to blame. Mike Zimmer, you got to figure it out, because if you don't, in a couple weeks, Tristin, you might be right. The Vikings could very well lose. There's a good probability, especially if the Vikings play like this on defensively, because make no mistake now, Aaron Rodgers is going to pick the Vikings apart on Monday Night Football in front of a home crowd, keep in mind. And if that happens, I believe Mike Zimmer will be gone. I believe that is the no more excuse, no more everything. I don't care if the Vikings do make the playoffs. Mike Zimmer will be gone. This defense, this Vikings defense is kind of atrocious right now, and that kind of leads into our next segment. I believe the Vikings defense is officially now a liability, and it needs to be fixed. Something needs to happen. I don't know. Dom, you played corner. Actually, both of you guys played corner in college and in high school. Maybe can you tell me what it's like? Maybe you guys don't have experience with this, maybe you do, but how big is confidence? How big is, I know Richard Sherman is one of the most confident corners in all of football. How big is confidence as a corner moving into this? Either one of you can take this. How big is confidence when you're going against the team's number one wide receiver?
Tristin, would you like to take this one?
Sure, yeah, I'll go first. I think it's huge. You can't really treat him like he's different from any other wide receiver. You just have to do your job. You got to stick to the fundamentals. If you let that stuff get to your head, oh, he's big, oh, he's fast, he's going to burn me, then he's going to burn you. He's going to tear you apart. But as long as you stick to your game plan, stick to your fundamentals, you'll probably get the help. You'll get the double teams that coach calls for, but you just got to do your job, and that's the best thing you can do. It's just letting things get to your head. If you let anything get to your head, you'll make little mental mistakes, like probably Xavier Rhodes has been doing, where people will just pick you apart. So, yeah, I think it's huge.
Yep.
Yeah, I agree. I agree 100%. I think confidence is the number one most important thing when you're trying to cover it. A number one receiver or a number two receiver even. I think that you just really have to focus in on your technique and your patience, and realize that no matter who's across from you, you just have to realize that you put in the same amount of work as they do. And, yeah, I definitely agree. I think confidence is huge in those situations.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm kind of looking at this, and I don't know how you have that much of a drop off. I know that sometimes mentally things cannot go your way, but that's what defines a champion. That's what you kind of look at this. That's what makes you a champion, is by moving past and getting better from those hard times. And I just don't see it from Xavier Rhodes right now. I don't see it from the entire Vikings defense, maybe even let alone team right now. And that's why I want to go into this next segment. Are the Vikings a legitimate Super Bowl contender? And I want to take this, if that's okay with you guys, to start this out, because the question that has to be asked is this: they are not a legitimate Super Bowl contender. They are not, and here's why I say that. And it pains me to say that, because I've loved this team for so long. I literally, even when they're 4-11, 4-12, I always watch them. I always see, I'm a nerd. I look at what they can improve on. I just love this team. I bleed purple. And it pains me to say this, especially a great Mike Zimmer-led squad like the Minnesota Vikings are this year. The Vikings are not a Super Bowl contender. And it's in large part due because, I don't know if you guys have noticed, but Lamar Jackson right now is kind of killing it. And when you are a Super Bowl team, you have that swagger, you have that little bit of confidence. You got that, oh yeah, we're down by a touchdown. Yeah, we're going to score 3 unanswered touchdowns on you right now. And when you're that good of a football team, the Vikings had it a couple years ago, back in 2017. 2017. They did not care what the deficit was. They were going to come back. They were going to try to win that game, and they just had a different feel to them. This Vikings team right now that I feel and I watch on Sunday, it's almost like they're scared sometimes. Like it's almost like they're more worried about what the other team is doing rather than themselves. And I don't know, I don't know how you correct that necessarily because I'm not an NFL coach, but I'm looking at it. But the Vikings consistently have not gotten the job done in big moments, and that, like I said, that Monday night loss was more on the defense and Kirk Cousins, but he's into this now too. He didn't change his persona, like Tristin said. 0-8 on Monday Night Football. Good chance he's going to be 0-9. I just don't think that this Vikings team is a legitimate Super Bowl contender because of lack of consistency. I can understand if there goes a couple of bad games go your way or don't go your way. I understand that. That's part of the NFL season. That's what makes it so unpredictable, and that's what makes wins in this NFL so important. But at the same time, as an NFL contender, look at the Ravens right now. They are what happened with Lamar Jackson? He fumbled the ball. You know what he said? He got back to the sideline. He said that was my bad. You know what his team said to him? No, we got you. They went out and got him a stop. He drove him down. They got a field goal and they won that game. That's what champions do. They bounce back and they try to find a way to win the game. Not these Minnesota Vikings. I'm so tired of everybody saying, "Oh, there's a silver lining. Oh, there's moral victories in football." There's no moral victories in football. I don't care what anybody says. You can't. I know I'm getting worked up about this, but there are no moral victories in football. 4 years ago, when the Vikings were 5-10-1, maybe there was a moral victory if the Vikings would have come out and done this to a very good Seahawks team. But there are no moral victories in football for this Minnesota Vikings squad, and that is a big reason as to why they're not a legitimate Super Bowl contender. Look at the Patriots. Even when they lose a close game to the Texans, they don't try to say, "Oh man, we were close." No, they don't make excuses because you know why? They're champions, and the Vikings are not a legitimate Super Bowl contending team.
So I have a quick question for you, Colton.
Yeah.
Do you think the rest of the Vikings team really has their trust and faith in Kirk Cousins? Do you think that they really, truly believe that he can lead them to a Super Bowl?
I think it's that's kind of a rough question. I'm glad you asked it because I think at the beginning of the season, the word was a resounding no. But I think they do now, and here's why. If you look at Kirk Cousins, I even said it on the podcast, those 4 straight games against it was like I can't even remember the stretch. It was like against the Giants and those 4 other teams that he shredded. Oh, Giants, Eagles, all those teams. If you look at that, and you're going to sit here and tell me that those wins were in any way impressive. They were good for the Vikings, but they weren't impressive. Yeah, the 4-game streak here. The Giants, Eagles, Lions, the Redskins. Those were not great teams. But then they went to play the Chiefs, and he still threw 3 touchdowns. They went to play the Cowboys on Sunday night. He still threw 2 touchdowns, no picks. Went to play the Broncos. Okay, that first half was not great, I'll admit that. But he came back and threw 3 touchdowns, led their offense, got that confidence back in that offense. Went on Monday night and played the Seahawks, played a very good defense. Didn't start out the greatest, but when it came down to it, he showed me he can throw that football. So I'm starting to think that this defense and this offense are really starting to believe in him, but it doesn't matter because at the same time, when your defense allows 30 points a game, it's hard for your quarterback, any quarterback, let alone Kirk Cousins or if it's Tom Brady or Aaron Rodgers. If your defense is letting up 30 points a game, your offense has to score 5 touchdowns to win the football game, 5 touchdowns and 2 field goals or something like that. So that's a lot to ask from any quarterback. So I think they're starting to get some confidence in him. I think he's starting to play a much better now, but it's still not good enough because of the Vikings defense. So do you have anything, big guy? Either one of you?
I want to go. I think Minnesota's problem is the coaching. I don't think they're going to get to the Super Bowl with Mike Zimmer. I don't think Mike Zimmer coaches a Super Bowl team. I don't know what it is about him. Who's the offensive coordinator? Is it Stefanski or
Kevin Stefanski? Yep.
Stefanski, yeah. I like him. If Zimmer gets booted, I wouldn't be surprised if he gets promoted into the head coaching job, just because I think he calls a pretty damn good offense, in my perspective, from what I've seen. But Zimmer, he just seems like too bland of a character in the same regards as to what Mike McCarthy was. I don't really know how to say anything about it. He just seems boring. Like, he doesn't seem like a guy that a team would kind of want to buy into because he's not much of a character. I've seen him get pissed off a lot, but I haven't seen him be happy and celebrating and stuff with players. So it's kind of like Mike McCarthy. Yes, you're a great coach, but there comes a time where your team just needs a change. You need to go to somebody who's younger, for the most part, I think. a good offensive mind and somebody who's full of character and really somebody who the whole team will buy into.
Yeah. Dom, any takes on it, big guy?
I don't really have too much to say as far as that goes. I'm not too familiar with the Vikings. I won't lie to you. But one thing I do want to say is I got to get out of here, fellas. I appreciate you guys having me on the show. Tristin, it was nice meeting you over the call, man. Go Pack, go. Yeah, one more time, dude. I just appreciate you guys having me on here. Sorry I couldn't stick around longer, all right?
Hey, not a problem, man. We appreciate having you on. Maybe we'll have you on again in the future, man. You take it easy and truck them safe, okay, big guy?
All right. Thank you, guys. Have a good night.
Yeah, you too. See ya.
All right, Tristin. So now it's just you and me, kind of going into this. I guess it was kind of funny, kind of looking into that. I mean, this Vikings game wasn't anything to gawk at. Not really anything impressive. I think the Vikings either A, are going to miss out on the playoffs completely because I believe the Bears are coming for them, or they're going to lose in the first round. There's no in between. That's exactly what's going to happen to this Vikings team either way. Let's see here. I think the next thing we got to talk about is actually pretty something that I really thought was a shocking thing to happen. Like right now in the season, Ron Rivera was let go by the Panthers, meaning that the Panthers have officially fired Ron Rivera. And I remember just thinking, wow, this guy brought him to the Super Bowl like as recently as four or 5 years ago, something like that. He brought him to the Super Bowl. He's had him in the playoffs multiple times. Granted, the season hasn't exactly gone according to plan, but for this guy to be fired outright, like I don't know, man. What was your first reaction when you saw it?
Pretty surprising. I don't think he should have been fired. I think he's a great coach. I think he's doing a really good job with the backup quarterback, Kyle Allen. I wouldn't really call him a backup quarterback anymore because it's not really any question he's going to be the starter moving forward. Like I said, I don't think Cam will be there after this year. I think they'll move forward with Kyle Allen, but I think he's doing a really good job with Kyle Allen, developing him. Yeah, it's just really surprising. You hate to see it, and I really think he'll be back coaching soon, maybe even this year. I don't know, probably not this year. It's a little late, but it wouldn't surprise me if he got a job. If he took a job as like a coordinator somewhere this year and then got another head coaching job next year. But yeah, it was super surprising, and I do not think they should have fired him.
Yeah, I remember kind of thinking, man, this was kind of even if he's not doing exactly great, I think Mike Tomlin, everybody's kind of getting all gawked about Mike Tomlin right now. I want to first start by saying I've got a lot of respect for Mike Tomlin. He is an absolute Hall of Fame coaching candidate, and what he's doing right now with that team is absolutely amazing. But you got to realize this Ron Rivera, he doesn't have the players. He's not the same person. He's just not in the same situation as Mike Tomlin. So kind of looking at this, people are saying, well, if Mike Tomlin can use his third or fourth string quarterback and go into a situation like that and still come out 7-5, you got to be pretty happy about that. Now here's the thing. Ron Rivera is dealing with probably I'll say the best running back in the NFL in Christian McCaffrey, and I think he's dealing with one of the better quarterbacks in Cam Newton, but Kyle Allen again has really taken it really far this year. Ron Rivera shouldn't have gotten fired. I don't care what anybody says. Yeah, the Panthers haven't exactly taken care of business this year, and that's probably a big reason why they find themselves at 5-7 right now. No, they haven't taken care of business, but that does not mean that man deserved to get fired. He's dealing with a lot right now. His team is your leading running back and your leading wide receiver. By the way, they have no wide receiver help. Their tight end Greg Olsen is just probably equivalent to the best player they have. DJ Moore is nothing to scoff at, but let's be real about here. I mean, he's a young player, only in his second year. He's probably going to get 1,000 yards, but that's pretty much it. Christian McCaffrey, DJ Moore, that's pretty much it for this team. So, just kind of looking at this, I really don't think that it's really all on Ron Rivera. His defense is giving up a lot as well, and they're not playing according to the way that they should be playing. So it's not all on Ron Rivera. I don't think that's fair. And the dude, he shouldn't go out like that. Just got a text from Dom. Appreciate having him on the podcast again. Good to have him on. And kind of I look through this. It's kind of a rough situation because if you look at it, this team is in my opinion, they were a playoff team. Like I believe that the Panthers were in the mix for a while, and obviously now they're out. But still, I mean, I realize this season hasn't gone according to plan, but you have to realize what this man has dealt with. This says more than his fair share of bad luck. So it's just kind of a rough situation. I wish him nothing but the best. And I was kind of looking at it. You remember who Tony Dungy is, Tristin?
Oh yeah.
Remember Tony Dungy. I read a little bit of his book called Quiet Strength. No, I read his book, Quiet Strength. I remember reading the full thing. And I remember reading, and there was a part where he got fired by the Buccaneers right before he went to the Colts. And there was a part, thinking, asking, like, why God, why me? All this jazz it was kind of the premise of it. But, he cleaned out his desk. He's going out there. There's a little bit of feeling of depression, but there was a feeling of fire in Tony Dungy. And he went into the Colts, went on to win a Super Bowl, with Peyton Manning and everything. And I get that same feeling with Ron Rivera. Like, just a great guy. The players loved him. They wanted to play for him, with him, never against him. And he was there. He was molding men. He wasn't just molding football players. Molding a football team. He was molding men. So this is really something that I think it's going to be. It's a big loss for the Panthers. I know, again, didn't go exactly according to plan, but this is a big loss for the Panthers, especially moving forward. I don't know coaching candidates. I don't know what exactly is going to go on there, but this is a big loss. He is a great man and a great coach, and I've got nothing but respect for Ron Rivera. Kind of looking into this, the question we have to ask is, what's next for the Panthers? I really don't know. I think it's going to be kind of a rough thing here. I think it's going to be kind of a rough stretch. They're probably. If I was them, I wouldn't move on from Cam Newton. I would keep him in the starting quarterback, and because he was injured, he was not himself. Kyle Allen is balling out right now, so I'd probably keep him around. Maybe have those two duke it out for the starting quarterback, and maybe trade somebody in the last preseason game. I don't know, but I do know that I do not think that it is fair to just cast out Cam Newton, who is one of the better quarterbacks in this league. I think even if they have to resign him, I believe you find a way to do it, because he is a game changer. He is a freak when it comes to anything athleticism based, and he's just a good quarterback. Tristan, what about your whole thing with the Panthers?
Yeah, I agree with pretty much everything you said. He shouldn't have been let go that way. They should have let him ride out the rest of the season at least. I don't know. It's kind of similar to the Mike McCarthy firing. You got a great coach who's done a lot for your football team, went to a Super Bowl, and then you're just going to can him midseason because you're probably not going to make the playoffs, which I don't think that does him right by any means. You got to at least let him finish out the season and then maybe give it a couple weeks, then let him go. But yeah, you hate to see it done like that, and I don't really know what's next for Carolina. I wouldn't be surprised if they gave actually Mike McCarthy a call, because I know Mike McCarthy's looking to come back as a head coach in the NFL. He interviewed with the Jets before they hired Adam Gase, which still blows my mind that I hired Adam Gase over Mike McCarthy. But I don't know. I think McCarthy will end up somewhere this next season, and I think Rivera will end up somewhere as a head coach this next season. I think it was like the day after he got fired, or it might have been the same day he was fired, which was just yesterday or 2 days ago. He got asked if he plans on coaching again. He said, hell yeah, I'm going to coach again. I'll be back real soon. And so, yeah, like that fire you were talking about, I think he's still got a lot left in him. And I think wherever he does go to will be a good team. And I don't think he would go to a garbage team. But I think he could really do something special on a good team, because I think he's that good of a coach, as well as Mike McCarthy. To get off topic a little bit, I was really surprised the Jets didn't hire Mike McCarthy, because he can develop quarterbacks like the best of them. I wouldn't credit McCarthy to developing Brett Favre. I would more credit it to Mike Holmgren, and I don't know who else was there, but Mike McCarthy developed Aaron Rodgers. Sure, he got to watch Brett Favre for a couple of years, but he never got to play. Favre was there. So McCarthy can do a hell of a job with quarterbacks. He could do a hell of a job with New York's offense with a good running back in Le'Veon Bell. They got a really good defense. But same thing for Ron Rivera. I think he's got the same kind of talent, and he can develop players just like Mike McCarthy can. So I think we'll definitely see him back next year.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree with that. I hope we do see him back, because he's absolutely something that I just think he's too good of a coach to be able to let go. Kind of doing a little bit of a shift here into some of this other stuff. I kind of want to this wasn't necessarily something I had planned. I just kind of want to throw this out there. Maybe I think we should do, probably the four teams that are locked for the playoffs on both sides. And I will start. We'll get into a little bit of this a little bit later on, because we have got a little bit of a Carmelo Anthony segment that we want to get into. I want to name four teams from both the AFC and the NFC that I think are four locks to make it to the playoffs. And I think it's just really important that we kind of look at and start to get ready for the playoffs, because this is really coming up Well, I mean, we might as well just do our playoffs right now. The NFC, everybody, NFC playoff standings and all that. I think it's kind of something that to look at. I know that there's a lot of different things that could happen. Like I think I saw a scenario today that if the Vikings somehow win, even if they win all 4 of their next games, they could still not make the playoffs at 8 and 11-5 or something like that, or excuse me, they lose one game, whatever, but. If they lose one game and they still go 11-5, they could miss the playoffs. I think that's pretty huge to look at, especially when you consider. I mean, 11-5. Usually, that's a really good season for any team that's that's in legitimate contention for a Super Bowl title there. So, kind of looking into this, obviously, I think I think the Patriots are Patriots and the Bills are in the mix there. Not at number 2 and 1 and 2 necessarily. I think the Ravens are number 1 over the Patriots, and if they're not, they should be because of the head-to-head. And then also I think it's the fact that it's going to be Ravens, Patriots, and then I think it's going to be the Bills. And after that, it's kind of wide open. I do expect the Chiefs to sneak in there right after the Bills because who saw the Bills doing this? Like I want to say I did not see the Bills going 9-3 this year. I barely saw the Bills going 8-8 because I didn't know how Josh Allen was going to develop. And I mean, this team also a little bit of a side note here. I think the Dolphins have won like 3 out of their last 4. Like, let's give them some props, man. Yeah. Like, they are not tanking. They are not tanking.
It doesn't seem to be so. Fitzmagic is starting to come in clutch. But I got to agree with you. Baltimore is my number 1 lock in the AFC. Number 2, I'd probably give it to Houston. I think probably the Texans
over the Patriots.
Yeah. They just beat the Patriots. The Patriots, the Patriots, they seem very beatable. If you have a good defense, I think New England's easily beatable. Maybe not easily, but they're very beatable. Baltimore showed it. Texans showed it. They have good defenses. Beat the Patriots. Yeah, I think Baltimore's number 1, Houston's number 2. New England's number 3, and probably the Bills number 4 for me. I don't think Kansas City's a lock because their defense is an absolute liability. But yeah, those are my 4 for the AFC.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I actually think
kind of looking
Pittsburgh right now, they have the 6th seed. I think Tennessee's going to come in and take the 6th seed, and I don't think Pittsburgh's going to make it.
Really?
Yeah, Tennessee.
Even if Pittsburgh doesn't. Go ahead.
Oh, no, I was just saying, I think Tennessee's going to sneak into the playoffs.
Oh, okay. Well, here's the thing. I think that's actually probably pretty true. The thing I kind of see with this is, even if Pittsburgh doesn't make the playoffs, I got to give them props.
Oh yeah.
Because I think it's so important. I think it's so important for all of us to look at it and realize, hey, this team with their 4th string quarterback, your defense was in shambles. You got Minkah Fitzpatrick. You took out Mason Rudolph. You got that what's his name, Hodges or something in there. Listen, this team, even if they don't make the playoffs, you have to give them a ton of credit. So I don't think that this is anything to necessarily gawk at. They deserve a lot of credit. I do believe that I did forget about the Texans beating the Patriots, even though I just said it. I still think that the Patriots are going to come in. I still think they could beat anybody. And I've said it. I even said it last week. Or either last podcast or 2 podcasts ago. I still think that this Patriots team is going to be able to figure out. I think they're going to put it all together, and they're going to use Lamar Jackson, his strengths to be a weakness, because I believe that's what Bill Belichick does. That is exactly what he does, and I think he just makes life a living hell for those quarterbacks and really opposing teams, not just quarterbacks. What am I saying? I apologize. I still think that the Patriots are very much alive and that they are going to be a very tough team. Kind of going into the NFC here, number 1, that's kind of rough. Obviously, I think it starts with the Seahawks because, they just beat Minnesota. They've beaten the 49ers, and, I think it's just kind of one of those things that's a little rough. Number 2, I'm going to go with the 49ers here because I'm not trying to take away anything else that the Packers or Saints have done, but I feel like the 49ers are a better team than the Saints, and plus I think they're just going to win outright and get that number 2. Their number 2 spot, or even maybe just try to come back and beat the Seahawks, get the number 1 spot. You never know. But right now, I think that the 49ers are a better team. Number 3, obviously the Saints, who are also 10-2. Those top 3 teams there, 10-2, are like really tough right now. and there's the Bears right now are 6-6, bringing it down the neck of the Vikings. Packers are going to make it above the Vikings. Packers are probably going to be a 4 seed. 5 seed, I'm not sure, 4 or 5 seed, excuse me. So I'm looking at this. The Rams still got a shot. The Bears got a shot. And the Vikings have to find a way. If the Bears lose, the Vikings, that nothing is still for sure here. They have to go out and find a way to get a big win because this is not looking good for the Vikings, especially if they continue to play like they did. They're barely a game ahead of the Rams right now. I fully expect them to get upset and just beaten one of these times. I think that they're going to lose, and I think Mike Zimmer's going to get fired. I just have a feeling. I expect the worst, Tristan. Maybe that's not fair coming from a Vikings fan, but I expect the worst. But yeah, I think other than 5-6, though, it's going to be weird to kind of see how it plays out because I think the Bears or the Rams could sneak in. There's a lot of other teams too that are pretty promising too. And even teams. The Cowboys are definitely in there. Excuse me, I forgot about the Cowboys. Maybe there's a reason for that. Cowboys and Eagles, both still very much alive in this thing. Obviously, the Cowboys are probably going to make it. And then the Eagles too could beat out the Vikings. Probably not because the Vikings have them on a head-to-head, and the Eagles have already lost 7 games. But you never know what could happen. Anything is absolutely possible. But man, that's just I don't know. It's just kind of a rough thing. I'm probably going to try not to watch any football, even though I will. Kind of moving forward. I'm just kind of afraid what's going to happen. It's going to be a rough thing moving forward here. So with that, let's kind of go into one of our final things here. With Carmelo Anthony. I've seen it pretty much everywhere. I think a lot of people are even asking the question, who's the best scorer of our decade? I still think it's Kobe Bryant. I really don't care about LeBron James because I still think that Kobe Bryant is a better scorer than LeBron James. Kind of looking at this, Carmelo Anthony, here's the question. Does he deserve to be in the conversation for the comeback player of the year? I'm going to let you take this one, Tristan, because I think it's a question that I think you could give some good insight on.
Comeback player of the year, I would probably say he's probably a front runner. In my opinion, he's probably the front runner for it. Just because of all the crap he's been through the last couple of years, nobody really has wanted him. Everybody thinks he's washed up. And now just come back, and he's putting up good numbers. He's putting up starter numbers. And it really, the way he's playing right now, it looks like he hasn't missed a beat, really. He's playing really good. I think he finally found a good niche or a good role with Portland. So, yeah, I'm really happy for him. I was really hoping he would come back and do something good. So, yeah, in my opinion, he should be the leading front runner for comeback player of the year.
I agree somewhat with that, but I still think you have to look at what Pascal Siakam has done. This was a guy, I never even knew who this guy was until last year, in the playoffs, and he absolutely just started showing up and balling out. This guy, you want to talk about, he was the comeback player of the year because 2 years ago, he averaged 7.3 points a game. He was grabbing almost 5 rebounds a game, like kind of a non-existent almost, like just kind of a come off the bench player, just give you some solid minutes, nothing special. He came back last year and averaged almost 10 more points a game. And he grabbed almost 3 more rebounds a game. Obviously, he was going to be, especially the way he played in the playoffs, absolutely phenomenal. And I also was really, dumbfounded. I was really excited to find out that he was a Cameroonian player. That's the basketball player. That's really cool. I didn't even cards on the table. I didn't even know where Cameroon. I don't even know where Cameroon is. I failed geography pretty miserably in school. And then now you look at him this year. He's almost averaging almost 10 more points again from where he previously was. His 3-point shooting percentage has gone up almost 3%. This guy I believe he is the reason that the Raptors are still they're still actually, in my opinion, I still think that they are a title contending team right now. They are, I think they could come out and do a lot of good things. I think they could really prove a lot of people wrong. 25 points a game. Almost 9 rebounds a game, 4 assists a game. Listen, this guy is quite obviously, I think he's the front runner, and that's not me taking a shot at Carmelo Anthony. Everything that has gone on with Carmelo Anthony, everything he's had to deal with, he wasn't even. I didn't even think he was going to get a job, Tristan. I really didn't think this man was even going to go anywhere. I didn't think he was ever going to play again. So don't get me wrong. To see this man come back and absolutely come back and just play the way he has and start for Portland and just to kind of flip the script, I'm ecstatic for him. Don't get me wrong, but I don't think, especially looking at Pascal Siakam, I think that's he should be the front runner for it. Even though Pascal Siakam, you kind of probably thought that was more of a jump, like he could make because of what he did last year and what he did in the playoffs. Like you probably thought that he was probably going to be a really good player for you next year, or this year, excuse me. I think he deserves to be the front runner in the Player of the Year. And then I just think Pascal Siakam is going to be the dude, even though Carmelo Anthony has had an amazing year and continues to do what he's going to do. You got any more comments on that, big guy?
No, I agree with you. Pascal Siakam has had a really good year. He's a really good player, so I wouldn't be surprised if he won it over Carmelo Anthony. But I don't know. Just for what all that has happened to Carmelo and what he's been through, I think he's pretty deserving of it.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And let's kind of go into our something here. I didn't put this on the outline again because I like keeping you on your feet, and I just want you to know I just want to keep you lively there, buddy. So let's kind of give me an MVP candidate. Way too early. That right now it's shaping up who it's going to be. Who do you think is the clear-cut best player in football right now?
Lamar Jackson. I think Lamar Jackson will win MVP.
Mm-hmm.
I know.
I'm going to dispute.
I know it's a tight race between him and Russell Wilson, but I do think I don't know. I don't think there's any way you cannot give it to Lamar Jackson based off what he's done and the records he's going to break in these next coming weeks with rushing records. His quarterback rating is so good for a quarterback that runs so much. Russ, I wish they could just split the trophy and give half of it to each of them. But I do think if they had to choose, common sense would say you have to give it to Lamar Jackson. You can't just give it to Russell Wilson because he's deserved it so many years and he's playing a really good year this year. You have to give it to Lamar Jackson because he's had a better year than Russell Wilson, I think. He has a better team than Russell Wilson, I think. I think he's I wouldn't say he's a better leader because we haven't seen as much of Lamar Jackson as we have of Russell Wilson. But the way that Lamar Jackson has carried himself thus far, like you mentioned earlier, after that fumble, going over to the sideline and apologizing to everybody, he's shown that he's a natural born leader. And everybody on that team respects him. Everybody on that team is bought into him. And I think he's probably the most dynamic player in the NFL right now.
Mm-hmm. I don't think there's any way you can dispute that. I mean, you bring up a lot of great points, especially with Lamar Jackson, the way he's going to reach 1,000 rushing yards, like probably this next week. And I don't think any other quarterback has done that other than Michael Vick. And if they have, there's not a lot of quarterbacks that have done it. But I just kind of looking at this, I don't think it can be anybody but Lamar Jackson. And I think it's just going to be something that's really fun. Because, I mean, for a guy that nobody thought, you even said it, dude, so many times, so many people are calling him not bad for a running back. So I just think it's really cool to see a guy come back like that and just perform the way he has, not just because he's proving people wrong, but just the way that, I thought he was a little bit of a troublemaker coming out of college, and just looking at him, watching how emotionally he played. But come to find out, that's not who he is. He's just a very passionate football player, and I have nothing but an immense amount of respect for that. So you know what, I think that's just something that I wasn't too surprised about. And now looking at it, because seems like he's a solid kid that works hard, loves football. Final thing, we're gonna go in here. We're gonna probably call her a night. Let's look at this. The radio analyst, his name is Tim Ryan. He made a comment on guess who? The guy we just talked about for the MVP conversation, Mr. Lamar Jackson, and saying that Lamar Jackson is good because. Or he's really good at faking that because his dark skin helps him hide the dark football. I don't know. I'm not kind of paraphrasing, of course. But I just feel like people are calling for him to be fired. People are, saying all this stuff. I don't think this man necessarily deserves to be fired because even people in our position, Tristin, we make mistakes. We have to, we have to own up to those mistakes at the end of the day. And this guy did, he apologized and everything. What was your reaction to this? I mean, obviously it's a little profound. Like, it's kind of shocking that somebody in that position would say something like that.
Yeah, it is really interesting. I don't know. As soon as I saw it, I was right away on board with, he should have been fired. Yeah, blah, blah, blah. But the more you look into it, the statement, the statement wasn't inaccurate. It was an accurate statement. But even Richard Sherman, I think Richard Sherman said it. I think today in his interview, he said, I don't think he should have been fired. The statement was true. It's just the way he said it. You shouldn't really be talking about people's shades of skin because you never know how anybody will take that kind of stuff nowadays. But I do kind of see what he was saying with the run fakes and, Lamar Jackson's arms and the football being both dark colors. You might not see the football in Lamar Jackson's hand. You never know. But, I really don't think you should say something like that if you're a national radio broadcaster. Even if you're thinking it, it's just you got to know your limits. But I do think, he should have been, I guess, maybe disciplined somehow.
He's suspended.
But I don't think, I don't think fired from his job completely should have happened.
And I'm just kind of looking at this, for me, a guy, I've said some stupid things on air and I've done some stupid things. But the thing about it is, I haven't actually said anything stupid. I just made it come up with like bold takes and whatnot. But the thing that I look at this and I think about is, for you to say something like that, your mind, you have to be, you're not necessarily built a different way, but you have to be like thinking about the situation in a different way. Like I realize, like when you're going through, I've done play-by-play for the Columbus Cowboys this year, and when you're kind of going through there, it is a little redundant sometimes because I was kind of thrust into it, spur of the moment. I had to kind of, I'd already covered the team, so I knew all the players and everything. It was just kind of one of those things where once you say something about a player, you have to find something else. Now, it's really hard to do because, not going into it, not doing my homework because, again, I literally got hired that day and they needed somebody and I stepped in and everything. Looking at it, it's kind of a tough thing because you have to try to find some of those interesting things. You have to try to find or come back with a breakdown of something. And it's really hard because those people that do it on TV, they're just so professional. They do such a great job. So for a guy to say something like this, it almost makes me worry like he didn't plan that out. Like he actually didn't think about what he was going to say when he said it, because it's something like that in this sensitive of a world, plus the way he said it. Like if I'm him, maybe I say the same thing, but I say it in a different way that compliments Lamar Jackson more as a person who he is. Like he's so athletic or he's so sneaky. I don't bring out his skin color about the whole thing. That has nothing to do with him as a football player. Like that's who he is as a person. It just doesn't matter when we're talking about the game of football. I don't care what color your skin is, purple, black, beige. It doesn't matter. He's a great football player, and that broadcaster should have definitely looked at it and said it a different way. And in a way, probably should have done more of his homework. But I think it's kind of it's a learning experience for him, and it's something guys like me can look at and be like, okay, like I really need to be careful of what I say. Like you, obviously, I'm not going to cut off anything. I'm not going to come out with any of the reactions or try to censor myself. I love what I do here. I love, being on the podcast. I love doing all this stuff and being able to talk freely. I think that's, it's the First Amendment, baby. That's what makes this country one of the best in the world. So listen, I still think that, he's got to learn from it, but I still think that it worries me for him that he would just go out and say something like that. Like, I hope this dude's okay. Wish him nothing but the best, but you have to be able to look at everything, and you have to be able to, especially a man in your position, you have to be able to really say stuff like that, but in a more respectful way. So I just didn't think it was a very good thing.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. When you have hundreds of thousands of people listening to you, you gotta think things through before you say it. One person I think who needs to really work on that is Booger McFarland, my least favorite broadcaster of all time. He doesn't say offensive things, but he says really, really stupid things, and it's just like these are things my newborn nephew could tell me, like, oh, it's third down, there's a chance they'll throw. Like, well, no crap, they're gonna throw. It's 3rd and 6. Like, he just says the dumbest stuff. But yeah, you got to think there's lines you can't cross when you're a broadcaster, or if you're in a position like that, and skin tone or race is definitely one of those lines you don't ever want to cross. You don't ever want to bring it up, even if it's in a respectful manner. You don't know how somebody's gonna take it. You can't say
absolutely.
Yeah, even if you said it in a respectful manner, it still would have brought up problems. But you got to know. I like what you said. You should have said something more respectful about Lamar Jackson, about his athletic ability, or something like that. Not bring up the skin tone. But
it has nothing to do with him as a football player.
Yeah, not at all. But yeah, it should definitely be a learning experience for him. I hope that nothing's wrong with him, like you said. I hope that his views aren't that of a racist, which I don't think they are. I think something just came out of his mouth that he didn't mean to let slip out of his mouth. But yeah, hopefully it's a good learning experience for him, and he gets to continue doing what he loves.
Absolutely. I think that's all. We pretty much got to wrap it up. By the way, I forgot to mention before we started the show that I hope everybody had a fantastic Thanksgiving. I did. It was great to be with family. In some cases, I think a little bit of cabin fever because of how much snow there was. Excuse me. But no, it was great to get the brother back. He's actually coming up this weekend to winter. Going to spend some quality time with him, so that'll be really great. Looking to do some pheasant hunting and everything, so that'll be good to get him back. So, forgot to ask you, buddy, how was your Thanksgiving? I'm pretty sure everybody else wants to know.
It was good. We were planning on going over to Rapid City to visit some of my family, but because of the weather, we actually just ended up staying here in Vermilion, so we didn't really go visit any family. So It is what it is. We still bought a lot of food and had a big feast, got all the traditional Thanksgiving food. So it was nice. It was nice being able to spend it alone and have some quiet time and not travel. But yeah, it's a bummer we couldn't spend it with the family, but we're planning some extra days around Christmas to make up for it.
Absolutely. Let's see here. One question for of the week for the listeners here. Okay, my question is, what is the best part about Christmas? I can literally go off on a rant here. For me, I like receiving and giving gifts, so that's one of my favorite things here. So I think it's kind of something that I don't know. Like, so many good things about Christmas, so I'm not sure that there's one good thing, but I would say giving and receiving gifts is fun. The food's great. And family time. Those are my favorite things about that. What about you? What is your favorite thing about Christmas, Tristin?
I think my favorite thing about Christmas is my grandma's cookies. She makes these cookies. My grandma's cookies. She makes these really good cookies every Christmas. Little sugar cookies with frosting, or shortbread cookies with frosting on them, and she brings them to Christmas every year. And she makes so many, so I can take home like 2 weeks worth with me when I go home. But yeah, so good.
You have to mail some to me, buddy.
Yeah, that's definitely got to be one of my favorite parts about Christmas, besides going home, spending time with family, and celebrating my faith. But yeah, it's super fun. I'm looking forward to the cookies.
Mm-hmm. I think that's all we got for the show. Remember to comment. Also follow us on all social media. Subscribe to the show. Comment in the comment section, obviously, what you liked about the show, but also let us know what the best your favorite part about Christmas is, no matter what it is. So just let us know. I wish everybody has a good week, and everybody takes it easy. And once again, thanks for listening.